transition. My name is Dorothy Degunti Kukor, and I'm honored to serve as one of your moderators for this timely conversation alongside Deborah Moyaki. As many of us know, transitioning from PhD studies into the next stage of our life can be both exciting and challenging. That's why we are here today, to hear from a group of amazing professionals who have walked this path and are generously sharing their journeys with us, journeys and practical insight with us. So this session is designed to offer encouragement and clarity, and we are excited to be joined by an incredible line of panelists that include Dr. Olariwaju, Dr. Jimasin, Dr. Oji, Dr. Shilin, and Dr. Banduri. Each of our panelists brings a unique perspective on life after the PhD, and we are looking forward to learning from their experiences. We will begin with a few guiding questions and then open the floor toward the end of the session. So please feel free to drop your thoughts in the chat as we go. Before we dive into the discussion, let's give our panelists a moment to briefly introduce themselves. Just a quick overview of who you are and your current role. Let's start with Dr. Jimasin, and then we will go around. Once again, thank you and welcome for sharing and welcome to this session.
Thank you. My name is Cassie Jameson. I'm an assistant professor at Rowan University in their experiential engineering education department. So we hold the foundational courses for all of our engineering disciplines for first year and second year. And then we also have an engineering education research PhD program. I'm in my third year here at Rowan.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. Thank you so much. Let's see who next. Next in line, Dr. Oji, can you please?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, my name is Victor Oji. I earned my PhD in engineering, as you can see, University of Georgia. I'm a UG alumni. Nice to meet you all. Presently, I work as a senior user researcher or experienced researcher at a financial institution, where I kind of apply research rigor and human-centered design to really solve, practical problems in digital banking, security, and experience. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now I know that we are going to learn a lot from this. Thank you so much. Dr. Shilin.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Mally Schilling. I am an assistant professor in the Engineering Education Systems and Design program at Arizona State University. And this is actually my first year. So I'm still pretty fresh from completing my PhD, which I completed in engineering education at Virginia Tech last year. So it's been a good year, and I'm excited to just kind of share some experiences from that as folks have questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We have Dr. Olariwaju.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olariwaju Paul Olaogun. I go by Paul. Yeah, so I'm an assistant instructional professor at Merrimack College in Massachusetts. I finished my PhD from the University of Georgia as well. While my role is mostly teaching, I'm still very, very invested in research as well. So yeah, it's so nice to be here.
Thank you so much. So one of our panelists is not here, Dr. Banduri. So we just dive into our discussion. But thank you all so much to our panelists and our audience for joining us for this event. We have an amazing lineup of panelists, and we cannot wait to learn from all of you guys' experiences that will help shape us for our next stage of life. Thank you all so much. So let's start by reflecting on your journey right after earning your PhD. So what did your career path look like after completing your PhD? Did it follow the direction you had initially planned, or did it take another route? So I think we can start with Dr. Olariwaju.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've always wanted to stay in academia, particularly gaining a research position. And I did a few interviews, trying to get into that, but eventually I got into a teaching role, which I've enjoyed, since I started. So I would say it changed a little bit, but not much, because I'm still in the academic environment. Um, yeah, so that was my intention before. I wasn't willing to go to the industry, even though I saw my predecessor, who happens to be Adurangba Oje. He finished before me. He got a job in the industry. Good for him. But I decided to stay in academia, and I've enjoyed what I've been doing ever since. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we get the next person before we move on to the next question. So Dr. Jemazin, can you I think the question is on the screen. So okay. So the question was, what did your career path look like after completing your PhD? Did it follow the direction you had initially planned, or did it take a completely different route? Dr. Jemazin, can we hear from you?
So when I started my PhD, I started it thinking that I wanted to go into a teaching focused role. So I did my undergraduate degree at a liberal arts college, and I was really passionate about teaching, which is kind of what drove me into my PhD in the first place. And then I really started to like research in the first couple of years of my PhD. And then I hit sort of the slump of my research isn't going the way I want it to, and I really just want to wrap up until my final year, where I was starting to like research again. And so I think leading all the way up to my final year, when I was job searching, I wasn't set on teaching track or tenure track. I didn't want to close the door to research. And so I really kind of ended up in a research position, because as I was interviewing, those kinds of questions and people asking me about the things that I was interested in exploring was really resonating with me. So I started out thinking I wanted to do mostly teaching, and ended up in a space where I get to do really good teaching, but I get to continue my research. And so I think definitely wasn't what I was expecting going into the PhD, but I'm really happy where I am right now.
Okay, thank you so much. This is really amazing. So our next panelist, Dr. Shilin. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the the initially planned part is the part that I'm not quite sure how to answer, because I think I started my PhD just kind of knowing that it was research that I was interested in, but I didn't necessarily know that I had a career that I was following kind of along the way. I think while I was in grad school, I was fortunate to have received the NSF GRFP. So that gave me some flexibility to kind of explore a lot of different things. And kind of as a result of that, and through talking with mentors and trying to understand different careers, both in and outside of academia, I think through that, I discovered that staying in academia is probably the route that I wanted to go. And then kind of through further exploration, decided that doing more of like research focused tenure track as opposed to teaching focused was really what I wanted to do. So I think probably like sometime around like year 3 of being in my PhD, that's sort of the route that I think I decided to pursue. But when I started my PhD, I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Okay. I think there are a lot of us here that can learn from this, because yeah. I just fit myself in it right now. So thank you so much. We'll move on to Dr. OG.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that, when I started my PhD, similarly to Dr. Schilling, I did not have an idea of what I wanted to do. But I was very open to and I prepared accordingly, whether it was academia or the industry. And I was involved, and this is a good, good exercise because I was also involved in ASCE. I remember that was where I met Casey, at that time. So I was really open. I met mentors, and but as time went on, I took a couple of, personality and strength tests, like the Clifford strength themes test and all that, and I reflected on where I could make the most impact, based on my strengths and values. And, I really respect, and I'm still involved anyway with academia. I respect that academia really offers that intellectual freedom and like long-term inquiry and all that. But I was really drawn to the collaborative pace and like practical outcomes and like interdisciplinary, like working with several people, and I sought mentors. I know UGA at that time had a UGA mentor program. So I intentionally sought mentors with those who have PhDs and have transitioned. So I, just to kind of guide into, what life, in the industry looked like. And they really encouraged me. I remember having a mentor who actually graduated from UJ, but used to work at Apple, but
Okay.
really encouraged me to like think very expansively about like that scholarship can take various forms, including, service development, product design, and organizational strategy. And that was kind of how, yeah, I landed in the industry.
Thank you so much. This is really good. Thank you so much. So since you have already talked about industry, and I think everyone have already covered up academia, so we just move to the third question. What are some of the biggest factors that influence your postdoc decision?
Yeah, since I went last, I could just go.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as I said, really a desire to see faster application of research. And this is not a dig on academia, but sometimes I was also true that sometimes research can be quite slow, in academia. But I really wanted, I'm this kind of person that just wants to move on to the next thing, right? So I wanted a faster application of research, and really the opportunity to also, as I mentioned, lead interdisciplinary teams, and really shape large scale, projects. And honestly, I think I was also looking for work-life balance.
Okay.
I was very stressed, so I kind of was looking for a place where, after 5 p.m. or whatever, I'm just going to close my laptop and do nothing for the rest of the day. Yeah.
Thank you. That's true. So we will take the next panelist, Dr. Schilling, for question 3. What were some of the biggest factors that influenced your postdoc decision, Dr.
Yeah. So I think probably in a lot of ways my answer is similar to what Dr. OJ just said, in that I was really kind of interested in like the type of work that I was doing as a PhD student. I felt like I wasn't really done asking questions and like continue to be really interested in those things, which kind of pushed me more towards research. So that really, kind of geared everything that I was looking at doing once I was done. So I applied to postdocs and tenure track jobs and that kind of thing. But I think also the type or the way that I work, so I guess like my work style, the environments in which I like working, and then kind of like similarly having that work-life balance. I feel like I'm able to also still kind of achieve that being a professor. And I think that just being in academia just aligns a lot better with the things that I like to do and the way that I like to work.
Okay, that's good. All right, so we'll take the next panelist, but I'm also seeing a trend like that maybe the way we learn or how we react to things also shape our next step or our next direction after PhD. So yeah, this is really interesting. Dr. Jumasin.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can echo what other people said in terms of like exploring alignment with what I like to do and how I like to do it. But I think my process might have been a little different. I applied to both teaching track and tenure track roles, which I had mentioned before, and I think I was finding myself resonating really well with both, depending on the institution. And so I think I was really looking for a place in academia where the culture aligned with how I saw myself as like an academic. And so I was doing a lot of sort of the like temperature checking and trying to figure out like, is my work style going to mesh well with the people that I would be working with at that institution? And so I think I was really lucky to find a place where I felt like I really could like bring my whole self to work and bring my ideas and shape the work that was being done. So yeah, I think that was a big piece for me as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We are learning a lot. So if you have your question to the audience, if you have any question, you can please place it into the chat room so we can keep adding it up, or just wait for the end of the session. By the end of the session, then we can continue. So the last person for this question, we have Dr. Olariwaju for question 3. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so for me, I was a lecturer before coming to the United States, so I've been teaching electrical engineering students. So I knew what I was going to do right from the start of my PhD. So when I finished, I applied to jobs accordingly, both teaching. Actually, I was actually seeking research role. I was prepared for that, but then I got into a teaching role. So what really influenced me most is I really want to make impact in the life of students. I love to see students, uh, uh, know what they did not come to understand, what they did not previously know, teaching them all these difficult concepts, right? Teaching them all
Mhm.
difficult concepts and them getting to know it and to be able to even explain it to other people. So that is something that I truly enjoy. And again, a place whereby my research will come to life, It's not just doing research for research sake, but where we can actually foster engagement, and see the impact of what we're talking about in research in real life situations. So that was a big factor for me that influenced my post PhD decision.
All right. Thank you so much to everyone for the first session of our questions. We will move to the next session of it, and that include nope. Yep. So the transition out of PhD can be emotionally and mentally intense. Let's talk about that aspect of the journey. So what did your transition out of the PhD feel like emotionally or mentally? How did it feel like?
Maybe I should start this time.
Yeah. I'll start with you.
Yeah, so for me, emotionally, because one, as an international student, on F visa, we have about a period of 3 months to get a job or get out of the system. So emotionally, I had to prepare for that. So for a period of about a year before graduating, I was already planning for what was going to happen before at my graduation. So good enough, like I mentioned, mentally, I was writing my doctoral dissertation at the same time and looking for a job. So that was a little bit tasking, right? But good enough with good preparation and everything, I was able to land my first job even before I graduated. So it was a lot, but I saw that people did it and I was able to do it as well.
Okay, so I think for this session, I just want to deal with one person and then move to another, because it's like the questions are already like aligned with some of the responses you just gave. So like you already mentioned how you handle your uncertainty and pressure. And so how did your work-life balance shift after PhD? I'm still with you on Dr. Olariwaju because this question is just like interrelated. So I just want to
Oh,
deal with one
okay.
person, yeah, and move to the next.
So my work-life balance shift after PhD, it hasn't changed much, but I think it's going to get better as I move forward because this is my first year, still preparing lecture material, still very, very much involved with research, dealing with institutional culture and everything. It's still a lot, but I think it's going to get better as I go forward. Yeah, so.
Okay,
Not
okay.
too different from what it used to be when I was a PhD, other than the fact that I earn bigger salary now. So
Okay, so what strategies help you maintain personal well-being during this transition? Because I know like it can be kind of difficult, and how did you really like maintain it?
yeah, so what helped me to maintain my balance is one, I have family and I have close associates. So I did not seclude myself from people. Even within our research group, we meet very often, and that helps us to stay on course and to be balanced emotionally. So yeah, my wife, my kids, so they keep me, I mean, in shape. Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. We are learning a lot from this. Thank you so much. So we move to the next panelist and then move to the next because this question, the second part of the questions are all interrelated. So we will just do the next person with all of the questions and move on to the next one. So we have Dr. Jimasin up for the
Sure.
next. Yeah.
I'll do my best to like answer in a
Okay.
nice narrative.
All right.
So I think like as I was transitioning out of PhD and into a tenure track role, I was kind of like navigating like highs and lows in terms of like sometimes I felt like an imposter and that I shouldn't be doing what I was doing, that I wasn't qualified. And then other times I was really excited about like the things that I was getting to do or plan, and sort of like where I could take my research trajectory. And so I think I was navigating a lot of that. And I think talking to people who are going through that similar sort of life transition. So people from my program, I was lucky to be hired at the same time as another faculty who came straight out of their PhD as well. So we were in each other's offices frequently, like, hey, are you feeling this too? And that was really validating. I also wanted to be really intentional about sort of how I thought about my life as a tenure track faculty because I've heard so much about like the potential of it sort of bleeding into your personal life. And so I have been reading a lot of books or really listening to them as audiobooks on walks, to sort of explore like what work-life balance could look like for me. And it doesn't have to be sort of like the standard thing that you think of. And then I wanted to be really intentional about like not working on the weekends. And that's like a personal thing. But I started to strategize about how I could do that. So like, what does my work look like while I'm at work so that I can set that aside and be as disconnected from it as possible when I go home.
Yeah.
I'll like plug the NCFDD Future Faculty Workshop. It's an online thing. It's a little pricey, but if you have an opportunity to do it, it's really great.
What's the name? 1 minute. What's the name of the?
NCFDD. It's
Okay.
like the Future Faculty Workshop or something like that. I did that in my second summer, but it really helps you explore like what does your work-life balance look like? How do you plan your career? And how do you do that intentionally? So I think that's great. And then the other thing that I was going to say as far as strategies go, I joined a rec soccer league, which was like my way of plugging into the community because I was moving far away from home.
Okay.
So I wanted to be really intentional about like this is something that I can do that's outside of work to start to get to know people. And so that doesn't have to necessarily be recreational sports, but maybe like a hobby group or something like that, I think is really great.
Thank you. I know our audience are learning a lot from this panel. I mean, the lineup of panelists, and myself, I'm really, really excited. I'm learning a lot. So thank you so much. Let's see. Okay, so we will go with Dr. Shilin, and then Dr. Oji will be the last for this.
Sure. Yeah, so I feel like I'm kind of still actively in a lot of these things right now, like having wrapped up my first year. So I think kind of like was already mentioned that like last year my PhD was spent finishing my dissertation, applying to jobs, which is highly, highly stressful already. And then trying to like navigate the uncertainty as you like get closer to your dissertation date of like, okay, like I don't have a job yet, like what am I doing when I'm done? So like fortunately kind of within like a week and a half span of like defending my dissertation, accepted a job offer, and at least that part was kind of solidified. But then it was kind of like okay, I'm done with my dissertation. Now I have to figure out how to move across the country and to a place I've never lived before, in a place that's wildly different than anywhere else I've ever lived before. So I feel like in a lot of ways I'm still kind of in that transition. And I think still am like quote unquote like recovering from finishing a PhD. It's gotten better as time has gone on, definitely, but still even a year out, I feel a little bit like I'm in recovery from just wrapping everything up. So how I've been handling that, I think definitely like just talking to my peers, the people who I graduated with from my PhD, because we're all kind of experiencing this same transition in similar ways, has been really useful. And relying on people who have kind of always been a part of my community. I have really good mentors who I like will still like my advisor, other faculty who have been faculty or like assistant or associate and full professors now. I'll like just text them quick questions of like, how do you interpret this thing? Like, can you like what is going on here? Like that type of thing. And like just even having like their confirmation of like this is how I'm interpreting this thing is like a good way for me to like check of like okay, like that is also what I interpreted that as, and like as a good sort of check that okay, I know what I'm doing, I have a handle on things and that kind of thing. So really just kind of relying on community and mentors. I will also say, and I would recommend this while you are also in grad school, if it's something that you feel like you need or could benefit from, but like therapy has been like life-changing. Like while I was finishing a PhD and even now into my first year as a faculty member. So that's also been really helpful for like trying to understand like emotions and the way that I'm thinking about things, and like also coming up with strategies to kind of combat some of those feelings of uncertainty and like grounding of like, okay, no, I got here for a reason. I'm qualified, I should be here, and I have strategies moving forward to help. And yeah, I think in terms of like other things related to well-being, I'm kind of in the phase of now trying to figure out how to plug more into community. So I would echo like finding groups that do hobbies that you are interested in or that you actively do, and trying to plug in with people who have similar interests as you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So we'll take our next panelist. Dr. Oji, you are up next.
Yeah.
Session.
Yeah, so the first question, honestly, it was would I say anything at first?
I don't know, maybe it's first one, maybe it's for
All right.
maybe
Yeah.
that one on the top.
Someone so Sandra Nafo, can you please mute your okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. So as Dr. Olariwaju said, in the PhD, in the dissertation stage was a lot. All right, because here I was trying to apply, and I wasn't just trying to apply to industry positions. As I mentioned earlier, I was applying to academic positions. I was doing networking. I was doing like informational interviews and what have you. So it was really a lot, and unconventional, but I wrote my PhD my dissertation less than a year, about 6 to 8 months, and I was trying to do all that within that time. So, and just with the issues of international students and all that, I was also thinking about that. So yeah, but I I got the job offer towards the tail end of my PhD experience, and I had to like transition to a new context. It really made me to reframe how I saw myself or how I thought about myself in terms of really building a sense of identity again, not in that academic setting, but learning new professional languages, new lingos, and what have you, and especially in academia where your credentials are usually the forefront of and the center of it all. Its industry is a little bit different where what matters most is how you can collaborate with several people. You have like
Yeah.
managers and you have executive directors who don't even have a PhD, and they are supposed to be your research directors. So you have to like think in another direction and really learning to collaborate with different people, different personalities. You see some might, there might be some bureaucracies, but really learning how to control all that. But in the industry, what matters most is really how to apply your knowledge to solve problems collaboratively. And I struggled at first because sometimes it feels it's about diminishing. You kind of have this feeling like your PhD is being diminished, but really, it's about really translating it, so that others could connect with it. And I'm fortunate in my company because we have a group of those who have transitioned. So sometimes when you kind of want to rant with other PhDs, you kind of have one-on-one sessions to like rant about some of the politics going on, and what have you. And but it was really about in handling feelings of uncertainty, pressure. It was really about really, talking with people, who have gone through this path and giving myself permission to learn again, and to be uncomfortable, to experience discomfort, because really that engenders, growth, especially in the industry settings. And really, another thing I would say is really keeping a running log of your contributions, because coming from academia, or when I was in PhD, the ultimate, the end goal is really to publish a paper, right, or to attend a conference. In the industry, it's a little bit different. Your stakeholder engagement is something. It's not always about publishing a paper. So if care is not taken, you feel you are not doing anything. So I kind of had that feeling at first, but really helping to keep a log of your impacts, your contributions, and what have you, how you've influenced decisions, how you've driven change, yeah, some of those things, because at the end of the year, that's kind of what would go into your end of the year review.
Yeah.
And well, the strategies that have really helped me, again, as I mentioned, staying connected, logging things, scheduling personal time, even and blocking time on my calendar. Because you can have 1,000 meetings every day. You just see people just book meetings, or put meetings on
Yeah.
the calendar. So, but really, sometimes even blocking the calendar to just really have time to do your work, because in my role, we are still required to do research. And sometimes you might just be overwhelmed with meetings that you would hardly have the time to do your work. So, but really
Okay.
blocking time, knowing how to block time on your calendar, and like even saying no to others, just so that you can focus on yourself, is like super important. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So we will move to the next session of our questions. So now let's dive into the practical side, like preparing for the job market and navigating that process. Okay, yeah, it's already up. So, how did you make preparation for your job market while you were finishing your PhD? Was it something that you started preparation like maybe before your dissertation defense or after your dissertation defense? Because I know it can be something on the mind of anyone graduating with PhD or preparing to graduate with PhD. We will go with you, Dr. Oji.
Oh, with me.
Yeah.
So how did I prepare? I started my preparation sometimes in my 40. I'm going to give you a background story. I didn't know exactly what role I was trying to apply for. I didn't know UXR existed at that time. So
Okay.
I went on LinkedIn and looked at all the possible all the possible job titles I could do. And I opened an Excel sheet and I was trying to, align it with my skill sets. That was how I know about UXR. And I went to this conference, the ARE conference. I met someone who actually knew about UXR and who, kind of gave me some materials, introduced me to some things. From there, I started preparing. I came across this group on Facebook called PhD to UX House as well. So I joined the group on Facebook. I did, because I think the especially with academia is really your CV. You can have up to 5, 7, 10 pages, 15, 20 pages, but really in the industry, you have to compress all of that, and really the emphasis is on impact. So the language is different, the emphasis is different. So I had to really work over time, different iterations to really revise my fantastic CV, my academic CV to the industry format, and also sought help. I want to emphasize that seeking help is very helpful. So I, reached out to folks on LinkedIn, connected with them, sent my resume to them. Sometimes you're gonna get no, but I asked myself, that's the worst thing that anyone can do to me, is not to answer me, to say no and move on to the other person, right? So I sought help. I had several iterations of my resume. And of course, at that time, I don't think there was AI, so I could not use AI. So I had to reach out to people who would really help me. Yeah, I conducted informational interviews, as I mentioned, revised my resume, practiced telling my story in terms of the impacts, and really translating my academic experience, really translating what I've done in academia, my collaboration to an industry setting. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. You have already answered all of the questions on this session. So thank you so much. Let me see. Yeah, you already gave your strategies, your experience. What your experience was like when you started your job session. So there's a question in the group chat, and this session covered it already. So I will move to the next panelist.
Actually, one more thing.
Okay.
For those also thinking of transitioning,
Okay.
I typically would say that please don't apply blindly. When you even applied on LinkedIn, try to reach out to the hiring manager and like sell yourself, like have maybe a paragraph really showing your impacts. Because in the industry, it's about impact, impact, impact. It's not, even with your publications, you want to reframe your publications to show impacts, right? So reaching out to the hiring manager or the recruiting manager is like super important, not to just just apply blindly. I think that also helped in job searching as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ojid. So for the next panelist, will be Dr. Shilin.
Yeah, so for most, at least like tenure track positions that are posted in engineering education, usually they would be posted kind of in the fall before the person would be expected to start. So really, I think I started probably about a year out from my defense, preparing just for jobs. So I had my planned defense in mind of like I needed to be graduated by the end of spring of 2025. So that meant I started preparing, or 2024. So that meant I started like preparing to apply for jobs the following year or the previous year. So I was able to apply and was accepted to a program that was basically just like meant for helping people prepare materials for academic jobs. So it was targeted really towards people who are at the end of their PhD who would be applying for jobs in like the following cycle. And basically that program provided structure and context and like reflection on preparing the different materials that go along with academic jobs, which is usually like a research statement, a teaching statement. And then at the time, some institutions were still doing like diversity statements or inclusion statements. I imagine those probably look different now, but those were usually 3 statements that were kind of involved in the applications. So writing those is an undertaking in and of itself. So having a program and structure like that was really helpful. And then with job searching and interviews, again, with academic jobs, I was specifically looking within engineering education. So that was kind of the scope that I was interested in. I had some criteria about at least like location. Like there were certain places I knew from the get-go I was not willing to live. So that kind of like helped filter out some things for me. But that was one of the things that was just kind of like a high priority. And then from there, I mean, like some things I got like filtered out like right away, didn't make it to an interview. Some things I got that first screening interview, and then in a couple instances, I made it kind of all the way through like the final process. So the experience was, I guess, kind of like what I expected. I think a big sort of takeaway from doing that is that I had to learn that in a lot of instances, it is not necessarily me. Like if you get a rejection, like it's not necessarily because of you. Sometimes there's things that kind of go on behind the scenes that you're not privy to as a candidate, and that just kind of is the way that it is in some cases. So having to like learn that and like navigate interviews and then like continuing to like push forward with things, I think was kind of like a big part of that experience. But yeah, I think in terms of like resources and strategies, again, if you can find a group that's like the one that I applied for, and I will see if I can find the name of it. I cannot remember the name of the group that I applied for and like had the program. But if you can find a program like that that has the intentional structure to help you prepare those materials if you're interested in academic jobs, that was super, super helpful. And having that kind of knocked out and out of the way by the time jobs were actually being posted, so that I could just tweak materials and edit them as necessary. That was really beneficial. But then just like learning also that you need to be just really consistent with who you are, kind of as a person and as a researcher, and making sure that that just kind of carries through all of the stages of the interview process is really important.
Okay, thank you so much. Personally, I'm learning a lot, and I'm so grateful for all of our panelists. So we will take the next person, Dr. Jimasin, and then for this session, the last person will be Dr. Olariwaju. So Dr. Jimasin.
Yeah, so I think in a lot of ways, my process was similar to Dr. Schilling. I also did a sort of like training program similar to what was described. I'm going to drop a link to it in the chat. I promise it's not just a plug for my alma mater, but they are one of the like joint people who hosted it. I thought it was a really good way to sort of see behind the curtain of like what are the unstated rules and things to expect in terms of what the job search looks like in tenure track scenarios. So I thought that it was really helpful, and I would highly recommend something like that. I also sort of organized postings in a giant spreadsheet, and I had due dates and sort of like priority levels. And then I really organized my time in terms of like, I know I need to get my dissertation done, but I also need to be applying pretty broadly. And so I spent Saturday mornings, it was kind of a routine for me. I would try to get one job posting, like job application out every Saturday from approximately October to December. So I applied to quite a few positions, and I think it's not an uncommon phenomena that as you apply, you have a small amount that you might get phone interviews, and likely a smaller amount than that you would get invited on site. And I think I had a similar experience where it wasn't necessarily always my like research prowess or teaching prowess that I felt like took me out of the running for specific positions. I think there were often some things that were going on behind the scenes, or there just wasn't like a fit in terms of how I was thinking about myself as a researcher. So I would like to encourage you all to not get discouraged when those kinds of things happen. And then I think I had a pretty broad perspective on how I was applying. So I wanted to put myself sort of out of my comfort zone. So I did apply to some places that I couldn't foresee myself living. because I thought that the program was really cool and I wanted to give it a shot. And I actually ended up in a place that I didn't expect to be. So I'm from a small town. I was hoping to stay sort of in the Midwest. And then I landed in New Jersey, 20 minutes from one of the biggest cities in the US, Philadelphia. But I loved the program so much and the people there that I was just like, I think that is going to take priority. And so that's kind of where I landed. So I would encourage you to definitely think about what your priorities are, but also consider expanding that a little bit during the search.
Okay, thank you. So we will take the next panelist, Dr. Olariwaju, for this session, and then we'll move on to our next session.
Yeah, so how I prepared myself for the job market was I had all my documents ready, my research statement, teaching philosophy, mentoring statement, diversity statement. I made sure I had all those ready. And talking about resources as well, I used the faculty that were in EETI, particularly our senior professor, Dr. Julie Martin. I used that a lot with my, my advisor, Dr. Nathaniel Hunsu. Went through, through different iterations of, of my statement. And while going through the revision, she will pose some questions, serious questions to me, that made me actually reflected on what I've already written, and those things actually helped while doing interview, right? So one thing I would like to say is that when you're applying for jobs, make sure you tailor your CV and your your cover letter and everything, tailor it to that particular job. Even though it might be the same teaching role or maybe research role, read the job posting and make sure you are addressing what they're requesting for. You know you can do the job, right? But you want to speak to what they actually need. So that will be very, very important. Not just generically sending the same CV and everything to every job. I applied to about probably 10 roles. And I interviewed with about 5 or 6.
Oh, that's great.
And I got one. So I actually went in person to 2 and I got one of those. So be specific, speak to what they need, and you are very sure that you're going to be called, even at least for phone interview, right? So that's it. And again, using resources as well while preparing for my interview. uh, Dr. Morlock, all the professors that we have in the department, I would call them. Sometimes they will organize a session like we are having, what was it called, a conference presentation where we present my research talk, my teaching talk to colleagues, to faculty and everything. So we should seek help. These people actually want to help, but sometimes many of us, we are kind of scared. We don't want to move too close to them. So please seek help while you are a student. You are there to learn. You are not a professor
Of
yet.
course.
So that would be my advice.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. So we close the curtain on this session, and then we will move up to the next one.
Hi, Dorothy. Just wanted to point your attention to the questions in the chat room, which I think are relevant for this part of the questioning before we move on to the next thing.
Okay, let's see. All right, so for the first one, someone said, I'm finishing my PhD in bioengineering. I think the first 2 sessions, one of it, our panelists already responded to this question. So we'll move to the next question. The next question said, okay, which one? Okay, the next question from Varon. He said, what are some other non-traditional options? Okay, that was for the last session before this one. What are some non-traditional options or avenues you have seen or come across or know about apart from academia and industry after a PhD in engineering education. So so the way the session is designed, we actually wanted to respond to all of the questions by the end of the session, but all right, so my co-moderator, she just asked us to focus on this one before we move to the next question. So our panelists, this is open to you, or anyone can respond to this person.
I think the first question is directed to me, I think so, because I'm in the teaching role, Joseph Tibbs. So where did I search for what challenges can I expect in making that transition as I search for job? If you have prepared yourself accordingly, I mean, get some teaching, what's it called, experience while you're doing your program. That will help you to transition to a teaching focused positions. Where did I search for those jobs? There is a link where they post engineering education. Oh, I see the link already. Taylor Johnson posted the link. So there you find jobs, that are related to engineering education posted. Also, I searched LinkedIn as well. There are some positions I applied to that I found on LinkedIn, not on this particular site. So, and you can just do Google search as well. Yeah, right. You can just do a random Google search, teaching professor, faculty, or lecturer, as the case may be, and that will also pop up for you. So, yeah, that is what I would say concerning that.
Okay. Anyone want to add to Dr. Olariwaju?
I was gonna jump in because my background is biomedical engineering education, so I was gonna plug the BME education division in ASCE has a lot of like job listings on their listserv. And then they also have like a Slack community that I would be happy to like send a request to plug you in to. So just let me know. But yeah, I was gonna echo the like if you can get teaching experience, I think if you want to transition from technical role into like a technical research position into the teaching role, it's really important to get some of that in PhD.
All right, anyone else want to add to the question, respond to the questions from the chat?
I think I can respond a little, and not necessarily from my personal experience, but just from speaking with people that I collaborate with. The question about options kind of outside of academia and industry. Some folks I know have gone sort of the route of like program evaluation and consulting. So like being sort of a consultant as a part of a consulting group who works on like different NSF funded grants and different like projects and things like that. So they're able to take their PhD and everything that they learned in their PhD and kind of apply it in a different way than I think sometimes we talk about like industry. So that's kind of one route I've seen people go. I also have some friends who have gone more of like the policy route and have explored how to sort of think about, for example, like workforce development at like local, state, and like federal policy through different organizations. And those sometimes lean a little bit more like nonprofit or government. And then the third sort of category is more like the nonprofit route, where the folks I know who work in nonprofit sometimes either like manage the philanthropy and the grant programs and like distributing grants to people who then submit them kind of aligned with that foundation's goals, for example. And in some other instances, they kind of do research as a part of the nonprofit organization. So like they are still responsible for applying for grants and that kind of thing. But the programming that kind of goes along with the nonprofit is aligned a little bit more directly with the grants. So there's a little bit more of like an applied part of that foundation in particular that I'm thinking about. So those things are still, I guess, maybe kind of like within industry, but are just kind of slightly different than I think sometimes how people think about industry.
Okay. I hope all of the responses help answer some of the questions or all of the questions, because looking at some of the first responses from the sessions, I feel like majority of them align with the questions in the chat room, and our panelists just pointed out some of the key things that will help all of us out. Thank you all so much. And now we can move up to our next session. So PhD can build a wide range of skills. Some are obvious and some subtle. Let's talk about how those have translated to your career. Let's see. All right, so we will go with Dr. Oji on this one. What are some of the transferable skills from your PhD that you have that are most valuable in your career, in your current role?
Yeah.
So Dr.
Yeah, great question. And I think this question is super important, especially in thinking about, what you should focus on your resume. But for me, some of the transferable skills are, research design and synthesis or analysis, really thinking about evidence-based decision making, thinking about communication, that is turning complex insights, into actionable strategies, not just communication in terms of presentation, but communication in terms of convincing stakeholders to agree or to accept your research and really negotiating with them. So it's not just about if conducted research, but really how can you follow up on your research? How can you convince your product owners, your leaders, your service leaders or strategy leaders on the utility of that research, and basically keep following up with them. What have they learned? How are they implementing it? Do they need help? And it's something I've also learned is really breaking. You might conduct, beautiful analysis, great analysis. I remember conducting a clustering analysis and, using k-means, but I quickly learned that you don't even have to use exactly the graphics that is the output from the software. I used R programming to kind of conduct that, because stakeholders are not going to understand what that means. They're not going to understand what k-means, but really translating that and making it simple in a way that is understandable for them. So all that complexity, all that thing can be in the appendix of your research, but really the core of your message is really helping stakeholders understand, the impact of your research. Some of the skills I've also learned is, really stakeholder alignment, as I said, facilitation. And some of these things, really, we do some of these things in academia, right? We present in conferences, we collaborate, we mentor people, right, through teaching. But these skills are actually transferable to industry settings.
Okay, so we'll just we will follow the same trend from the previous sessions. So are there some things that you wish you had done differently that would have better prepared you for this transition?
Some of the things I wish I would have done if I were to reverse the time, or clock, is really applying for internships. I think that's super important. Or start exploring applied research opportunities earlier. I think some of the things I would have wished to, also wish to have done earlier is really build more cross-disciplinary relationships. Go to like more conferences outside even ASE, more academic conferences, like even outside ASE. The only conference I knew of outside ASE was AERA, but I tell you there are more, right? So, but really go there and really build networks, build relationships, connect with people. I think also some of the things I really wish I would have done is really not stay in my comfort zone just in UGA, but really go present in other schools, because again, you are building connections. PhD is not just about the dissertation, but your ability to build connections, to grow your network. So I think, yeah, that is something I wish if I, were to, reverse the clock, would something I wish I would have done or do or encourage you all to do. All right.
All right. Thank you so much.
And that actually falls into the third bucket. How can current PhD students build professional skills, join cross-functional projects, take workshops, take certifications, especially in dealing with perhaps non-academic settings, take workshops on design thinking, on data visualization, or something that is related to what you want to do. Present research outside your department, outside your comfort zone, even volunteering opportunities help. Those things really build up to showcase your impacts. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Oji. Now we will take Dr. Shilin for this session.
Yeah, I think to the first question about transferable skills, I mean, in a lot of ways, at least in my first year, a lot of the skills have been a pretty like one-to-one transfer from finishing my PhD. I think the biggest, I guess sort of skill, yeah, that I've had to like learn to do is being able to switch kind of like between a lot of different tasks faster. So I think this is something that like one of my mentors has said before, so did not come from me. But kind of like the idea of like, if it's something that will take me less than like 10 minutes to complete, and I see that it comes in my inbox, like I'm going to stop what I'm doing, address that thing, and then be able to switch back to what I'm doing. Because if I let those like small tasks build up, then all of a sudden it's like a huge task. So I think just like learning how to switch between tasks quicker in a way to still like maintain priorities, I think is probably one of the biggest transitions. I think the other sort of big skill, and some of this kind of plays into the second question as well. That's kind of like the biggest difference that I feel like I just didn't have a lot of exposure to while I was a PhD student that is now really relevant being tenure track, is applying to grants. Like you kind of get an idea of it if you're working with a faculty member who's applying to grants actively, but to be the one who's actually like steering it is a very different thing. So I think I would have tried to probably like observe some of that process a little bit more intentionally and ask a lot more questions around like, how long does it actually take you to apply to a grant from the time that like you have the idea to then like it is actually like you're hitting submit in the system, and like just getting a better idea of that process, I think is probably something I would have done, knowing what I know now. And then I think in terms of, I guess, there's like building professional skills, I would echo all of the things about trying to go to different conferences, interacting with different people outside of engineering education. If you're in engineering education, or if you're in a different engineering, find other people to talk to and present your research to and try to connect with. And I think also kind of along with that, I think in a lot of ways, like throughout a PhD, you kind of passively build a lot of skills that you don't realize you're building. So I think like taking moments to reflect on like, what were the skills that went into me completing this paper and presenting it at a conference, and like how do I think about those things as like getting whatever job I want next. And I think in a lot of ways, one of those skills that I don't think I realized until recently was kind of this idea that like through being in academia, I think everybody to some degree builds like entrepreneurial skills. So like being able to sell yourself and the work that you do and the impact of that work through completing papers you present to conferences, through publishing in journals, and through completing your dissertation. Like all of those things have entrepreneurial things that can then be leveraged so that you can get to that next stage in your career in different ways. So I think just reflecting on some of those skills a little bit more while you're finishing your PhD is something I would recommend.
Okay, thank you. So we have our next panelist on this list will be Dr. Jimalson.
Sure. I don't know if I have anything super new to add, but I think when I was taking notes before this on the questions, I jotted down like thinking through a study start to finish. So I had the really great opportunity of I got to pick my dissertation topic. So I got a lot of practice with that during my PhD. And I think that has been something that's been absolutely critical as I've started to like guide my graduate students through thinking through that process. I think I had some really great examples of what good mentoring looks like, and I had multiple mentors. So I think that was really critical as I transitioned into mentorship as well, sort of getting to think about what was working for me and how that might translate to other students. And then I think the standard like organization and time management, I think those have had to change slightly, but I think that's something that I brought into my role that set me up for success. Looking back, I think I would have given myself more time in the PhD. I think there's so many opportunities to create networks, to learn new things, and really your job as a PhD student is to learn deeply. And so if I had more flexibility, I think it would have been great to be able to actually spend more time in that space. I think that leads into the how can current PhD students build professional skills from my mind. I think my advisor did a really good job of like throwing opportunities to me and saying, hey, I think this could align with some of the things you've talked to me about for your goals. You should look into it. And that really sort of established a sense of doing that on my own as well. But then when I would come to her with an opportunity that I was interested in, she always asked me to critically think about how that might open doors for me in the future. So I think it's really easy to jump into things that sound interesting and that you're excited about, but I think it's also important to step back and reflect every once in a while to say, are the things that I'm doing pushing me towards the goals that I have? And if they're not, it's okay, you can pivot. But I think that reflection is important sort of from time to time. So yeah.
Okay, so we'll take our last panelist for this session, Dr. Olariwaju,
Yeah, thank
for
you.
this last session.
Yeah, like they have all said, I think I kind of agree with all of them. Certainly, there are transferable skills that I brought into my present role, communication skill. I have to talk with my co-worker, my supervisor, my student. I do more of speaking now than I did when I was a PhD student, right? Communicating clearly in a way that they will understand what you're saying. Project management, now that I teach three classes, dealing with different students, collaboration, and all these kind of skills, I got them while doing my PhD. Good enough, I had a teaching experience. I was a TA for a class where I learned class management, classroom management, and so on and so forth. So those were the skills that I brought into this role that I'm presently in now. So like I mentioned, I'm still doing research, still collaborating with other people from different places now, other than our cluster. That it used to be our cluster in UGA, but now the ability to collaborate with other people, I still brought that into this role, even though it's not required. But I know that as a junior faculty, I need to be uh, I need to be doing research. Yeah, good research. So, and I'm still doing that. Yeah. So, what would what do I wish to do that I would have done differently? Um, I don't know. I'm in a teaching role, so I would have said publish more. Yeah, I would have wished to publish more, but teaching role does not require that. Um, yeah, that's it.
Okay, okay. Okay, so the last question says, how can current PhD Okay, yeah, you already responded to it. No problem. It's okay. We can move up to the next session. Deborah, we can move up to the next session. All right. So for those who have explored both academia and industry, or probably consider something else, what have you learned from that comparison? Like if you have explored academia and industry at the same time, what have you learned? What are some of the comparison? Is it something different or do you see some kind of similarity in it while working in the industry? So I will start with Dr. Oji because he's one of those people who is currently working in industry. So I think he can help us. He can start the response from there. Yeah, Dr. Oji.
Yes, thank you. Key differences between academia and industry, especially as I'm still involved with publishing papers, I will go with the output of research. In academia, it could be very long term. It could take months or even years to publish. But because in industry, because you're dealing with stakeholders who are breathing on your neck every week, you're having like stand-up meetings every week. Research can be very fast. Conducting end-to-end research sometimes could take 2 to 3 weeks from writing your research requirement document or your proposal as it were to really conducting the research. It can be very fast, and some of the times you even have to negotiate for time, more time. That's one key difference. Uh, for another thing is really success metrics, which I've talked about before. In academia, it's about publication and grants, right? I mean, in industry, it's not exactly. I mean, we still publish papers, our studies internally, so that our other researchers can reference that and not duplicate efforts, But it's really your impact is really to your stakeholders. So it's really, are you able to change a decision? Are you able to, drive an outcome or a change in terms of product change or, experience change or even a service change? So the as I said, the impact is really to your stakeholders. In terms of research ownership in academia, it can be very individually led. You can be a co-author. In the industry, it's as I said, it's very collaborative, it's very team driven. You're not just working on your research, you're working closely with designers. In my case, working very closely with UX designers because they leverage on your findings, right? You're working closely with content people. So you wouldn't, be surprised to see a content person trying to change your words because they feel like it's not aligned or something. You just have to have that patience to like deal with them because that's their job, right? So sometimes even you're working closely with designers to even help, present. I think I kind of learned that when I started, I was, about designing my own slides and things like that until someone told me, look, you don't have to design your own slides. Like you can conduct the research and have a meeting with your designers, communicate that, and your designer would help you to really put it out there in a way that you guys are going to do it collaboratively in a way that your stakeholders are going to be impressed. All right, that's kind of some of the things that is there is a difference. I think in terms of mentorship and teaching, as you know, in academia, it's central to the role, right? In the industry, it is not central to your role. It's basically like very informal, but still impactful, depending on how you're able to frame your story. So those are some of the key differences, between academia and the industry that I've observed.
Okay.
Neither is better, it's just different forms, really. It's just, different forms of contribution. I still see myself as an educator. I still mentor people. I presented in conferences, UX conference. I did present a paper last year on UX metrics, but it's not bad. Neither is, as I mentioned, neither is better, academia or industry. It's just in a different environment. You're just conducting research in a different environment.
Yeah, two different forms. Okay, so the next question follows. So what advice will you give to students who are considering between the two environments?
Identify your strength, your values. As I mentioned, have a deep reflection of like what do you actually want to do? What do you value? I think Dr. Jamison mentioned your work style. What's your work style? What's your collaboration style? How do you like to work? Do you like to, for instance, as I mentioned, in the industry, it can be pretty fast, can be pretty, intensive. Do you like to have lots of meetings? Do you like to talk a lot? So those are some of the things. And really just reflecting, do you want to be more impactful, like in the classroom or in a private settings, in terms of publishing, or what do you value the most? So that's kind of like just doing a deep reflection of, what are your values, what are your strengths, and taking it from there.
Okay, so thank you so much. We will. Any of the panelists want to hop on this question because I feel like I don't want to I don't want to point out because I realized that the remaining four panelists are all into academia. So maybe probably each of you have listened to some of your colleagues from the industry talk about it, or from your undergrad or master program before coming into the engineering education. Anyone can hop on the question for this session.
I think I would maybe add, I guess just kind of like a misconception I had about like what academia would be like versus what I have always heard people say about industry. And Dr. Jameson kind of touched on this earlier as well. But in particular, kind of related to like work-life balance. Like I think maybe probably to some degree because of the mentors I had, who did have really good work-life balance, I think, and really always kind of prioritized like their responsibilities to their family or like the things that they had going on in their lives outside of work, which forced them to have work-life balance. So I tried to carry a lot of that over into this role as well. So again, like if I want to be done at 5 or 6 every day, then that means that I need to structure my day so that I'm still accomplishing work, so that I'm done at 5 or 6 every day and can shut my laptop and really be done. So that's just kind of one of those things that you just have to prioritize it differently. But I do think that at least I feel like I have achieved work-life balance in a lot of ways. Also kind of recognizing that there are still times I feel like during the semesters where it's like I am working all weekend because there's like a deadline due on like Monday and like I have to make sure that this thing gets done. So I recognize that learning when to make those sacrifices is important. But for the most part, I feel like I have work-life balance, and that was kind of one thing that I think was surprising.
Okay. Anyone else? We are still on academia versus industry. Anyone else want to hop on these questions? Okay, so let's move up to the next one. So as as we begin to wrap up, let's turn to advice for those currently navigating the end of their PhD journey. What advice will you give to someone nearing the end of their PhD who are unsure of the next step of their life journey?
Can I go first?
No problem. Again.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the advice I will give is the same advice my advisor gave me. Start looking out for what your PhD can get you. Look for different jobs role. Look at their what their requirements, all the things. So and every time he asked me, how many job positions can you apply for, with your degree and so on. Start early. Start as early as maybe year 2, year 3. For someone that is already nearing the end of their PhD, what can they do? Start searching for different roles that you can fill and just apply. Position yourself. I believe that you have publication already, you have everything ready. Position yourself and start applying to those things, to those jobs, to those roles. And as you continue to interview for those roles, probably you will feel more confident in yourself. One thing about this thing is that you need to be confident in what you can do. That is something that I don't have. And my advisor will always tell me, you don't know what you know. You have a lot going on for you. So you need to sell yourself big. He said, this is not a place where you have to be humble, you know. So that is one thing that is another thing that we had. You have to be confident in your ability. You have spent so much years on your project. You've spent 3, 4, 5 years on your project. You should be able to defend it and be able to sell it to other people. You good. So what is one thing you know now that you wish you had known before finishing my PhD? Um, one thing that I know now, yeah, that before I finished my PhD, I was a little bit unsure whether I was going to get hired or not in academia. So, but now I feel confident about my ability, about what I know, and I feel like I can easily move from one place to another. Like I mentioned, like my professor said, I should be confident about myself. I feel more confident, more bold, you know. So, yeah, that's it. And yeah, that's what I would say.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So we will take Dr. Shilin and then we'll move around. Dr. Shilin for this question.
Yeah, I think it kind of to the point about like confidence. I think it's very easy to finish a PhD and be like, well, I don't know that I actually know anything at all. At least in my experience and through talking to some of my like peers who we all kind of finished at the same time. But I think for me, like there was a moment probably like once I started this job where I was like working on something and it like clicked. I think that it was like, oh, I am an expert in this thing. I do know what I'm like talking about with this thing that I'm actually working on. And like that like moment where it clicked, I think was like where it was like, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So like there was a period where I was like, I'm not so sure that I understand anything that's going on right now. But that moment where it clicks does come at some point. So I think just kind of like knowing that now that I am done would have been really useful to hear, I think, before I graduated. And then I think as you're kind of thinking about next steps, I think really kind of just grounding yourself in the things that you value, the things that you know you want to do, the impact that you think you want to have, and just really kind of anchoring yourself on those things will help you feel like you were on the right path to whatever it is that you want to do. So I think just kind of using the time as you end to kind of like reflect on what those things are, and just really, really anchoring on those things and just holding on to them. I think was helpful when I was unsure about like what I was doing next and what was going to be happening. So.
Okay, thank you. So we will take Dr. Jumasin and then Dr. Oji for this session.
Sure. I think I can keep it short because I echo again what other folks have said. So I was hearing a little bit of like put yourself out there. Like let other people see the cool work that you've done and share it. And then like as you're applying, you might see people have synergies with what you're working on that you wouldn't have seen yourself if you didn't put yourself in that role to be able to say that. And then also I think that requires some reflection on what you value. So you want to be able to put yourself out there. You want to get your work in front of the people who might want to hire you. But that requires you to think about who you are. And so I think there was a lot of reflecting as I was wrapping up my PhD of like what kind of work I wanted to do. And so I think that's a really important element. And I was hearing it sort of throughout the rest of the conversation as well. So would really encourage you all to take time to give yourself that space to do that. And then I was thinking a lot about the like, what is one thing you know now that you wish you had known before finishing your PhD? And I struggled a lot with it. Like, I think I've learned so much since starting my faculty role, but if I were to articulate exactly what that was, I think I would struggle, and I am struggling. So I think I'll sum it up by saying you're going to continue to learn as you go. And I think that's the beauty of like what the PhD prepares you to do. You become someone who can figure out what you don't know and how to figure out that thing. And so you're well prepared to enter a role where that is something that continues. So yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. So we'll take our last panelist for this session, Dr. Oji.
Yes. The first question, what advice? I think the first thing is embracing the uncertainty. It's all part of the journey. You know, PhD, and maybe I'm talking from my experience, it is completely normal not to have everything figured out. You know, because that's exactly what PhD is the PhD is training you to really navigate ambiguity and as you're thinking about transitioning to, it's okay, you know, not to have, as I mentioned, everything figured out. But in thinking about what do I want to do, I typically would advise not to lock yourself into one path. Oh, excuse me. Not to lock yourself into one path, like, you know, talk to people in academia, in industry, in non-profits, have informational interviews, consider fellowship, side projects, you know, in talking to people, ask them about their day-to-day challenges, you know, ask them about their, their success stories, ask them about even the opportunities to grow that's also one of the one advice I would give. And I think for me is that your PhD is more than a degree. You've acquired, just like what Dr. Jamison has said, lots of skills. You know, you've acquired critical thinking, you've acquired project management, you've acquired teaching, writing, research design. Practice reframing your expertise, you know, as Dr. Olaogun said, you know, sell yourself you know, beyond just what you have in terms of your publications, and invest in relationships, invest in mentorship, collaboration, peer support, because it will carry you really far, not just your credentials. Like stay connected with your peers, stay connected with your networks. As I mentioned before, build networks, expand your skill sets beyond your discipline. Whether you want to learn even maybe, as I mentioned, design thinking, or you want to learn data visualization, attend interdisciplinary workshops, just like similarly to, with what we've had. And I think something I wish I would have done in my PhD was to keep a journal that documents my wins, because it would help you to really have more confidence in yourself. It will help you to really know how to sell yourself more. And really, it would really help you to fight imposter syndrome. I think now that I've transitioned, I do that more in the industry settings, because I tell you, PhDs who have transitioned also have this imposter syndrome about how well they are doing. Am I doing well? Am I satisfying my stakeholders? But really, having a document or a brag document where really document your wins, insights, your moments of growth. I think the last thing I would say is your identity is not tied to just the PhD. Your identity is not tied to just research. Besides the fact that you're a leader, you're a mentor, go out there, enjoy yourselves, have fun, and don't live in a box. Your PhD is not a box, right? It's a bridge. So, it's a toolkit that's adaptable across many parts. Your PhD has really taught you to ask better questions. And I tell you, not many people in the industry know how to ask questions. So your PhD will really teach you how to write a problem statement, how to navigate complexity, how to think critically and systematically, how to handle long-term projects, how to teach and translate knowledge. And those skills are very rare. Those skills are highly valuable, whether you're in academia, in industry, in government, in non-profits. So and I wish that more PhDs knew that, especially those who are thinking to leave academia, that you're not just leaving academia, you're only expanding your impact. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. So I was going to ask for parting wisdom, but all of you have already like pointed out some of the key things to that is going to help future doctoral candidate or students, current students. So I'm not going to go over that to ask for key takeaway, but if you have any parting statement that you want to share with the audience, we would love to hear that from all of the panelists.
I'll just say thank you for the opportunity to share. I think it was actually really cool to be able to reflect on my experience over the last 3 years and what I've learned as I've transitioned. So I think it was great for me too. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much too for accepting our invitation. It means a lot to us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you also. Thank you very much for the invitation. I really appreciate this opportunity to share. It would be part of this discussion. Thank you so much. My parting statement to final year PhD student or people that are looking to graduate is use resources around you. Don't see your committee members as people that are against you. They actually wanted you to succeed. Visit them more, talk with them more, even beyond your dissertation. Talk with them concerning your aspirations, your career goal, and everything, and they're going to help you. If you don't know where to start with your teaching statement, research statement, you can request for one from them and go through different iteration, and you will be fine. And again, lastly, start applying early. If you're going to graduate because there is a cycle. So if you're going to graduate in spring, you need to start applying as far back as the previous fall. So that is what I will have to say. Apply early, prepare yourself accordingly, talk with your professors, the ones that are around you, and people, those beyond your institution. You can reach out to them. They are willing to help you, and your colleague as well. All right. So that's all that I have. Thank you once again for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Anyone else? Okay, so the floor is now open for questions from the audience. But if you don't have any more questions, okay, the floor is now open for questions from the audience. Okay, I guess we don't have any more questions for our panelists. I want to take this time on behalf of the American Society for Engineering Education Student Division to tell our panelists thank you and our audience for listening. Once again, thank you all so much for joining us for today's panel discussion. It means a lot to us. And this is a timely conversation, and I believe that our audience and the team have learned a lot from all of our panelists' experiences and their reflection. Once again, thank you all so much, and see you all soon. I hope we all apply all of what we have learned today to our joining as PhD candidates, students, or current docs. Thank you all so much, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll end the meeting now for everyone. Thank you so much.
Okay.